Kia ora, malo lele. This workshop will introduce you to the basics of APA referencing, so you can use it in your academic writing assessments. The workshop will explain what referencing is, why and when we use it, and how to create different types of references. If you're new to referencing, the whole workshop will be useful. However, if you already have some referencing knowledge, you can use the timestamps to go straight to the section you need. Throughout the workshop, if you need more time to read the information, just pause the video at any stage. In academic writing, you're expected to use evidence, which means you need to use other people's work to support your ideas. You then use referencing to show which sources you used to find those ideas. By referencing each source used in your work, you give credit to or acknowledge those who had the original idea. There are two parts to every reference. One appears inside your text, and the other appears at the end of your work in the reference list. The information included in your writing is called an in-text citation. The in-text citation helps the reader to find the source in the reference list. The information in the reference list is called a reference. There are several reasons why you should use referencing in your assessments. Pause the video for a moment and see if you can think of some of those reasons. There are 5 key reasons to use referencing in your writing: to provide evidence or support for your ideas, to avoid copying or plagiarizing someone else's work, to acknowledge the work of the source author, to show you've done your research, and to show your readers where you found your ideas. This animated video gives an overview of what APA referencing is and how it works. It should give you a good idea of when referencing might be needed in your work.
In academic writing, you use evidence from outside sources to support your ideas. Referencing is the system which gives credit to the person who produced the original work. It improves the credibility of your ideas and helps avoid plagiarism. Plagiarism can lead to serious consequences in academic study. Several referencing styles exist, but at ARA we use the APA style. When referencing, you must cite each source both in the body of the writing where you mention their work, the in-text reference, and in the reference list at the end of your assignment. The in-text reference is like a signpost to the reference list. An in-text citation helps the reader identify which ideas in a paragraph are your own and which came from someone else. Leaving the citation until the end of a paragraph is not usually enough because it doesn't show which ideas came from a source. You must cite in the sentence where you use a source, and you may need to cite several times in a single paragraph. The parts that make up a citation are fixed. For the APA style, the in-text reference has key parts to it: the last name of the author, the date it was published. This information is enough for the reader to then go and find the full details of the source in the reference list. The entry in the reference list provides details about who wrote it, when it was published, the title of the resource, and other publishing information. The reader then has enough information to be able to find the source themselves. So what exactly do you need to reference in your assignments? Simple. You need to cite everything that is not your own work or idea. This includes information from books, websites, journal articles, course materials, research reports, videos, photographs, and fact sheets. Let's look at how to reference a book using the APA style. The in-text citation uses only the surname and date. In the reference list, you can see the 4 key parts of the citation: the author's name and initial, the date, the title, and the publishing information. Pay attention to the punctuation. This is important and is also part of the APA style. Website citations are a little different. The in-text citation shows the author or organization, the publication date. In the reference list, you include the author or organization, the date, and the title. Then you tell the reader where you found the web page. Books and web pages are just two examples of the many different types of source. Each one is slightly different, but it doesn't need to be confusing. Luckily, you don't have to remember all the rules because we have reproduced a student APA referencing guide to help you when you need to reference. You'll be able to find a copy on the ARA Learning Services web pages. And of course, you can always ask for help whenever you need it. Understanding and including referencing in your assignments will improve your likelihood of success.
The video mentions several situations where you'd need to include a reference in your work. Press pause and take a few moments to answer true or false for each of these situations. When you're ready, press play and see how well you went. If you use a fact that is common knowledge, that is, something most people would know, you don't need to reference. An example of common knowledge is that more people in the world are right-handed than left-handed. Most people are aware of this fact. Students often wonder where they should put their in-text references. Pause your video now to think about each of these statements and decide whether each is true or false. Your job is to show the reader exactly which parts of your writing are your words and which parts include other people's ideas. By citing in the sentence where you use the source information, you give credit to the original author, and you help your reader to find that source if they want to. If you just cite at the end of a paragraph, the reader doesn't know exactly where in the paragraph you used the source. You need to cite in the first sentence where you use each source. This may mean you have several citations in a single paragraph. If you're using the same source in several sentences in a row, you need to either recite the source or show in your wording that you are still using the same source. Read this example and notice the repeated citation. In this example, the writer needs to recite the SPCA because they're writing about two different ideas from the same source in two separate sentences. However, if you read the second example, you'll notice there's only one citation. This is because the writer tells us in the first sentence that the SPCA has produced a guide. Then in the second sentence, they refer back to the guide, and it's clear that they're talking about the same source. Therefore, they don't need to recite the SPCA. If you use your writing to show that you're still using the same source, you don't need to cite again. Either method of citing is acceptable in APA. Remember, a reference list entry is also needed. Another question often asked is, how do I introduce ideas from my sources into my writing? There are several different ways this can be done. In the examples we'll show, the content is exactly the same, but the method of introducing it is different. The first way to introduce your information is to start by describing the source. In this case, a study of tertiary students in New Zealand. In this example, the citation appears inside the sentence to show who did the study. The second example is very similar, except that it includes several sources, meaning that the writer found the same idea in all of these studies. Notice that each study in the citation is listed in alphabetical order and separated by a semicolon. Another way to introduce your source is to start with the authors. This is particularly helpful if you want to compare different authors' ideas on your topic. It also clearly shows that the ideas come from someone else and are not just your opinion. If you prefer not to include authors' names, you can simply add your citation at the end of the relevant sentence. This method is helpful when the ideas are more important than who wrote them. There are many ways to introduce your source materials and citations. You may want to mix up these methods in your writing to provide variety. The reference list goes at the end of your assignment and needs specific formatting under the APA style. This example of a reference list shows that the reference list entries must be organized in alphabetical order. Each reference list entry uses the hanging indent format, where the entire entry hangs off the first line. The reference list should always use the same font as your assignment. It should also include double spacing between lines. These are 4 of the key formatting requirements for a reference list. Each reference list entry has 4 main parts. For a web page, this consists of the author, the date of the web page's publication, the title of the web page, and the publication details. All 4 parts are required with specific formatting under APA referencing style to create the reference list entry for a web page. You may wonder where to find the details for this reference. The 4 main parts are found on the web page itself: the author, the date of publication, the title of the web page, and the publication details. Try creating a reference list entry yourself. Here is a book called Tautura, A Natural and Cultural History by Philip Simpson. This quick guide to APA referencing handout includes a specific example of how to create a reference list entry for a book with one author. You can use the screenshot of this example, along with information taken from the book cover and from the copyright details page, to create a reference list entry. Try to create a reference list entry for this book, paying attention to the content and detail required for APA referencing style. Pause the video now and have a go. You can now compare your reference list entry with the correct APA style example. Similar to the web page example, there are 4 key parts to a reference list entry for a book: the author, the year of publication, the title of the book, and the publisher. All 4 parts are required with specific formatting under APA referencing style to create the reference list entry for a book. You would find the 4 main parts of the book's reference list entry on the book's cover and its copyright page: the author, the date of publication, the title of the book, and its publication details. APA referencing style can seem a bit confusing when you first start, but in fact it's very structured. There are many supports that you can use to help you with referencing for your assignments. The StudySmart referencing resources in MyAra, which includes the ARA APA referencing guide. There are physical and digital learning services handouts available with APA referencing information, and a number of APA referencing supports at the Learning Services workshops and quick questions. The staff in the library are also keen to help you with referencing. All of the information about these supports is found on MyAra.